Now this is just a little question from Paper 1, GCSE Paper 1, and it's about definitions or functions that return values. It's only worth 2 marks, but it's a little bit tricky to work out perhaps, and it needs you to know about parameters and how they work in functions. So we've got 3 functions, and I wish they wouldn't sometimes do this because we've called them first, second and third, which is not necessarily the best names for some functions. And parameters, here we've got P1, P2 and P3, so we're sending these parameters to the first function. So the first question is just asking us what happens when those parameters are 3, 4 and 4. So in this case P1 is going to be 3 and P2 is going to be 4 and P3 is also going to be 4, and we're going to send those things to first. So V1 is the first line of code here, and that's going to add together P2 and P3. So V1 is going to become 4 plus 4, which is 8, and then we've got this combined statement here, print, but we're not just printing out a value, we're printing the result of what happens when we send V1 and P1 to second. And this is a bit confusing because V1 becomes P1 here because it's about the order that they're in, not what they're called, and P1 becomes P2 here. So when we're in second, we're sending it the values 8 and 4. No, we're not. We're sending it 8 and 3, of course, aren't we? So it just shows how easy it is to get a little bit confused about this idea, because we're sending it P1 and P1 there is 3, so we're sending it 8 and 3. So V1 becomes 8 plus 3, which is 11. And then if V1 is more than 12, well, it's not more than 12, it's 11. So we're not going to do this bit. We're just going to return V1, and it says what would the print statement be. So it returns it to here and prints it, and so the answer is 11 in this case. We only get 1 mark for that. It's quite a lot of work to think about how it works for 1 mark. I would definitely recommend in the exam that you write down some of these figures as numbers rather than trying to do it all in your head, because it just takes a bit of the memory load off. So then the second one, we're going to do the same thing, except this time P1 is 3 as it was before, P2 is 4 as it was before, but P3 is 8. So we've got those 3 parameters that we're sending. So when we're doing first, V1 equals P2 plus P3, so 12. And then we're going to send those to second. So second, we're sending V1 to that. So first P1 becomes 12, and P2 here becomes 3. So they're the parameters we're sending to second. V1 equals P1 plus P2, it's 15. So if V1 is more than 12, well, it is this time because it's 15. So V1 equals V1 plus third, and we're going to send it P1. P1 is 12, because there it is. So we send 12 to third, and in third it says if P1 is more than 3, we return 2. So it is more than 3, so we're going to return 2, and 2 comes back. V1 equals V1 plus this thing that we've had returned, so it's now 17, and 17 is the answer to that one. So quite tricky to work through, but worth writing down some of the workings and how it works. Certainly in my head, the way it works here is I'm thinking about what the values are, trying to match a parameter value position here. So V1 becoming P1 and P1 becoming P2 does make it a bit more tricky to think about, which is why I say it's quite a good idea to write it down. Only a couple of marks, but quite useful understanding about how functions return values to each other and can use a function like this one here does with it print second. It's using a function in to respond to that print statement.